Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is February 16th, 2024, and Victor Font has once again attacked Joan Laporta's handling of the club. Also, Elena Fort, one of Barcelona's vice presidents, has responded to Victor Font. And finally, it's reported that Joan Laporta will not be sacking Xavi Hernandez. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and before we begin with the news, just a quick reminder to make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All of this helps this channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kickback. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you hit the Bet Us. Both links for kickback and Bet Us are down below in the description. Now, I'll begin with the news that Victor Font has once again attacked Joan Laporta's handling of the club. Now, in case you don't know who Victor Font is, he was a candidate that ran for the presidency of Barcelona. He lost to Joan Laporta when Joan Laporta was elected as Barcelona's president. And ever since, there's been several times Victor Font has criticized Joan Laporta, but he has been doing that a lot recently. Where yesterday he sent a letter to all of the club members heavily criticizing Joan Laporta's handling of the club. And today he gave an interview where once again he heavily criticized Joan Laporta's handling of FC Barcelona. Now, Victor Font started the interview by criticizing what's going on with Xavi Hernandez. And in regards to that, Victor Font said, and I will take the logo off so you can see it, but Victor Font said the frustration of the culés is logical. Nobody expected these bad sporting results. The president's triumphalist narrative has not helped. This whole institutional disaster is reflected on the field. It is partly the president's responsibility. We all expect Xavi to perform better. Buying Laporta's optimistic discourse has been a problem for Xavi, and I have told him so personally. Obviously, Xavi is also to blame, but not the only one. So Victor Fort saying that yes, Xavi Hernandez is partly to blame for what's going on, of course, but that the responsibility lays at the hand of Joan Laporta of what's going on the field, which I think it's kind of ironic because when Joan Laporta was running for president, he did not have Xavi Hernandez in mind as Barcelona's manager. In fact, he wanted a German coach. You know, he talked about Jurgen Klopp, Tuchel, Nagelsmann, Flick, you name it. And it was actually Victor Font who ran his campaign on the premise that he would bring Xavi Hernandez to be Barcelona's coach. And not only did Victor Font wanted Xavi as Barcelona's coach, but he wanted to give him full control of the sporting arena. You know, he wanted Xavi to decide all the signings, all which players will be offloaded, which players get promoted within the academy, etc. So it's funny that Victor Font is now laying the total blame of Xavi's failure on Joan Laporta when it was actually him who is the one who suggested that he wanted Xavi to be the manager. And he's the one who put that idea into the club members and the fans' head. So when Laporta sacked Koeman, he still didn't want to bring Xavi Hernandez, but since many people within the club had already gotten that illusion of bringing Xavi over, and the fans wanted Xavi, then Joan Laporta ended up caving and bringing Xavi Hernandez. Of course, this doesn't take the responsibility away from Joan Laporta. He still made a decision to bring Xavi Hernandez, so that responsibility still sits on him. But it's funny that Victor Font is criticizing this when he's the one who started with the whole idea of bringing Xavi as Barcelona's coach. Now, Victor Font also talked about the reduction of the wage bill. In regards to that, he said, it has been reduced in the third season. It has taken 2 years to implement a viability plan. The train at 200 kilometers per hour has started to slow down very late. Well, the truth is that it has already crashed. In the last 3 years, we have generated $1 billion in operating losses. For people to understand, if I earn 1,000 euros a month, but I spend 1,250, I have a problem. That's what's happening to Barcelona. So Victor Font admitting that yes, the wage bill has been reduced, but he thinks that it's too late, that it's taken too long, that it's taken 3 years for Barcelona to reduce the wage bill. And yes, it has taken long, but after all, you cannot reduce the wage bill overnight. We had incredibly high salaries and high contracts for many, many players. These contracts are enforceable. You can't just get rid of them overnight. You can't just say, we're going to stop paying you or you're just fired. That doesn't happen. These players had contracts for many, many years. So, of course, it was going to take time to get rid of these players, and it was going to happen slowly. So I don't think this is necessarily it's not John Laporta's board fault. This is Bartomeu's fault, who gave these players these incredibly high salaries to begin with and gave them also long contracts, despite many of these players being over 30, some of them even over 32. He still gave them very long contracts and very, very high contracts. I think Laporta and his board did a good job in getting rid of all these high earners, reducing the wage bill by over 200 million euros, with plans to reduce it even more. Now, Victor Fon also talked about Lionel Messi and how he was necessary for the transition. In regards to that, Victor Fon said, the big mistake of this term and one of the biggest in the club's history. Leo was very important to complete the transition. It was clear that we lacked talent. Economically, the association implemented the shock plan. The illusion is that one day Leo will return to Barcelona like Piqué, Puyol. Now, I do agree with Victor Fon as far as that Lionel Messi would have been a huge help for the club. I know a lot of people, when we were talking about Messi's renewal, kept saying, oh, well, Lionel Messi's the problem. He earns 100 million euros a season. Yes, he did earn that, but he also generated 300 million euros in profit. So yes, the presence of Messi would have helped the club financially, but let's be honest, the departure of Messi has nothing to do with John Laporta. This was not John Laporta's decision or choice, as many people like to say. This was simply out of the hands of the club. Javier Tebas de la Liga strictly told the Barcelona, you cannot renew Messi. You don't have the financial fair play margin. You don't have the money for it. It's impossible. And some people say, well, Messi could have reduced his salary or his contract by half. The La Liga rules does not allow for that. So Barcelona had no option. This was not a conscious decision to say, oh, we don't want to renew Messi. Barcelona simply did not have any options because La Liga told them, no, you cannot renew him. Now, Victor Fon also spoke about how Barcelona is not going to succeed under John Laporta. In regards to that, he said, the club cannot continue to be governed by the same people who started this century. We have to modernize the management in every sense. The objective is to protect the ownership model and compete with the big teams. There will be a loss whole of 100 to 150 million euros. The only way for the club to avoid this is to sell assets in the form of players, Frankie de Jong, Ronald Araujo, or whoever. All the talent executives have left and have been replaced by friends at the club every day. I don't think so. I'm sure he must be very valid, but I don't understand why they hide him. So Victor Fon, and I do agree with this point, says that we need to modernize the way the club is ran. And in this point, I do agree 100%. This is something I have discussed in previous videos. I don't like that John Laporta tries to do everything, tries to be involved in everything. I think there needs to be separate roles for every member of the board. I think we also need to hire a CEO, which is something that John Laporta said he would do, but he hasn't in a very long time. So I do agree with Victor Fon in this aspect. We do need to modernize the club. The club needs to be ran more like a professional corporation or a professional company with separate roles and qualified executives to fulfill each role so the club can be ran more efficiently rather than have Jean Laporta trying to do everything. Now, Victor Fon, just like Jean Laporta, also says that we need to preserve the ownership model, which is that Barcelona is owned by its members. I 100% agree with this. Barcelona, that's part of Barcelona's identity. That's what makes Barcelona Barcelona. If we tomorrow sold a portion of the club or the entire club, might as well change our name, change our colors, change everything, because it's part of that. It's part of what makes Barcelona Barcelona, is that it's owned by its members. It's always been like that for over 125 years, and it should always remain that way. Now, Victor Fon also talked about Real Madrid and Barcelona's association with them for the Super League. In regards to that, he said, they have a new field that is a clear advantage over Barcelona. Everything they generate in the next few years in income, we will have to pay in debt. They will have 100 or 150 million euros in resources that we won't have. It makes no sense to choose Florentino before Messi. It is not normal to do operations with people Florentino trusts the most. Lagari, founder of A22, is one of the promoters of the Superliga. I know he is very surprised because he is helping Barcelona. Now, here, what Victor Fon is talking about is saying that Laporta somehow chose Florentino Perez over Messi. I'm not sure how he reaches this conclusion. Yes, John Laporta has chosen to become partners with Florentino Perez in the launch of the Super League. That's something that's more that John Laporta is doing in order to generate more income for the club. Also, in order to get away from the total monopoly of UEFA. I don't know what that has to do with Messi. It's not like those were the two options, Messi or the Super League, and Laporta chose Super League. That's not what it was. These are two completely separate operations. This is not even apples to oranges. These are apples to pebbles. So I don't know what he's trying to insinuate with that, but that's what Victor Font had to say about Gian Laporta teaming up with Florentino Perez. Now, Victor Font did end the interview saying that he does not support a censure motion because he believes in the stability of the club, and he's not in favor of the club being destabilized even further. I think that's more words or empty words than anything, because yeah, he's saying that he doesn't support a censure motion, but yeah, he is sending a letter to all the club members, talking about how bad the club is managed. Now he goes on TV saying how bad the club is managed. I'm sure he's going to keep doing interviews saying how bad the club is managed. So yes, you say you're not supporting a censure motion because you want the club to stay stable, but by making these comments, you're actually throwing the club into more instability. And there's already been talk about a censure motion within some club members. And if you're sending letters, you're constantly criticizing, and you're saying all these things on TV, all you're doing is pouring more fuel on the fire and even encouraging these club members to do a censure motion. So you say you don't want a censure motion, but it sounds to me like Victor Font does want one. But anyways, Barcelona have responded to this in the form of statements released by Elena Fort. She's one of the vice presidents of Barcelona. In regards to Victor Font, Elena Fort says, the club situation is certainly not the best possible. From the sporting side, I think there was an agreed project, and for whatever reason, it did not go as expected. But it is also true that the condition of the club is clearly improving from 2021. In 3 years, excellent work has been done with real improvements. Economically, we are improving and working every day to improve. So I have to agree here with Elena for 100%. Of course, the club is not in the ideal situation. It's not where we want to be, but it is much, much better than when John Laporta became president. The club has completely cut expenses all across the board. The club has gotten rid of some of the highest earners. The club has reduced the wage bill by over 200 million euros. The club has gotten rid of the old guard. The club has increased its revenues by signing 28 new sponsors. The club has secured funding for the renovation of the stadium, which is something that was on shaky ground. A lot of the investors were backing away. So obviously, there's a lot more work to do, but the club has done a lot more work, and the club is a lot better than before, and it's moving in the right direction. And of course, it's going to take time. We're talking about, I don't know, I think it was 10 years of damage that Jose and Bartomeu did. Of course, it's going to take years to recover from all of that. Improvements and change does not happen overnight. Now, Elena Ford did close out by saying, in our situation, our entity, other than any other entity than FC Barcelona, would have gone bankrupt. The huge work for these years in which the team has also been improved. I think we should look at it with a perspective that goes beyond personal interests. We need everyone to realize that Barcelona is not as bad as some imagine. So Elena Ford making the point that, look, Barcelona has improved. We have to look at it from an objective point rather than self-interest. Of course, here referring to Victor Font, because let's be honest, the reason why Victor Font is making all these criticism, all these statements, the letters, is because of his self-interest. He ran against Gian Laporta. He said in the interview he wants to run again against Gian Laporta. So obviously, Victor Font taking advantage of the situation of the club to kind of fortify himself as a future candidate and make his case that much stronger. But speaking of Gian Laporta, let's end the video with the news that it's being reported that Gian Laporta has decided that he will not sack Xavi Hernandez regardless of what happens in Celta Vigo and Napoli. Gian Laporta has decided that he wants to stick with Xavi until the end of the season. He believes it's the best for the club. Of course, I've said this many times before. I agree with this. I think if we sack Xavi, we can't bring anyone because of the financial fair play. So all we would be doing is throwing the club into more instability, throwing more commotion, more fuel on the fire. We would have to bring up Rafa Marquez, who's not going to improve things. He also doesn't have experience, so things will be worse. And at the end of the day, we risk Rafa Marquez getting fired too, because since things are not going to get better, which I know they're not going to get better, people are going to turn against Rafa Marquez too. So now we're going to be left without a coach for the first team, without a coach for Barca Athletic. It's just going to be more and more of a mess. So I do agree with Jan Laporta and just sticking with Xavi until the end of the season. But they are saying that if things do get worse, that maybe Jan Laporta could sit down with Xavi Hernandez, have a talk, maybe have Xavi resign on his own to protect his image. Of course, that's something I've always said that I imagine is going to happen, that I don't see Laporta ever sacking Xavi. But if anything, Laporta could ask Xavi to resign. That, of course, would be to protect the legacy of one of our greatest players in the history. But that's what it is. I do want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about all this news? What do you think about Victor Font's statements? What do you think about Elena Fort's reply? What do you think about Jan Laporta not wanting to sack Xavi? Let me know down below. Anyways, that is all for today. This is the third and final video. Again, lots and lots of news. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. And as always, Visca Barça.